This podcast will talk you through the ups and downs in the entertainment industry.
Each and every one of you has a talent, but it's a tough business. People gonna tell you, get a real job.
By introducing you to sustainable, moldable methods in a crazy, cutthroat world.
Let us harness our willpower and take real action.
Don't let it get you down.
Join me, brothers and sisters, on a journey through trials and tribulations.
Unfake it till you make it.
Welcome to the Unfake It Till You Make It podcast. I'm your host, Tony Soriano. This is episode 27. I just had a vivacious conversation with my guest, Jordan Gillis. He is a full-time musician and songwriter who plays anything from rock, funk, soul, jazz, even heavy metal and country. He has an album out called 1,000 Miles Acoustic, and he's playing shows all over the USA. We talk about the roots of discipline, the strategies to balance it all. We get into some technical talk of music theory, so bear with us while we're nerding out. And we even touch upon his empowering alternative passion called permaculture, farming, and self-sustaining practices, which I find fascinating. And one last thing before we go into the episode, I wanted to thank you listeners for tuning in and enjoying the show. I've been asked how to best support this show. The best way to support this show is to leave a 5-star positive review wherever you listen to podcasts. I really appreciate it. Keeps the show going and lets us know how we're doing. And now, please enjoy this episode with Jordan Gillis. All right, welcome to the show, Jordan.
Happy to be here.
Yes, me too. It's a good reason for me to wake up early. I mean, it's kind of early for where I'm at, 8:49. I mean, I try to get up at 8, but it's hard.
You're in the West Coast?
Yeah, LA time.
California?
Yep.
LA? Okay, gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. So what's exciting about the music career, the world in music right now for you?
What's exciting? I guess what's exciting is also the thing that's also not exciting, which is the fact that in the music business right now, I think there's an audience for almost everything. I think the potential, for a lot of musicians, you can make a living, with your own music. You may not necessarily be like a rock star anymore, like of the old school days, because those guys are still, it's like a very limited market, and that's like, I don't know, people like Charlie Puth and stuff like that, and your Ed Sheerans and guys like that. And they're going to be huge, and it's, people who are doing stuff that's really unique and stuff like that, or even like, it doesn't seem as promising to get it to that level anymore. But it does seem like everybody can kind of be their own boss and be in control of their own music, and they can at least, support themselves playing music, and they can share their art to everybody, and in a way that they couldn't do it before, when all you had was the record label, that was your only option to get out there. Now you can be your own record label, in a sense. So it's good and bad, kind of.
Yeah. It's wonderful that there's the internet and you can just record an album, whether it's just low quality or whatever, and just throw it up there. It is pretty amazing. I always think about that, like the older days when they're waiting to hear that song on the radio, that was just that from that record label. And but I know what you mean. It's great, but then it's also tough because there's so many people accessing it,
Yeah, for sure.
And have you been playing music since you were like a boy, or?
No, I actually started actually when I was an adult. I started playing when I was 19, and I practiced I wanted a guitar when I was 13, and I remember asking for one, and I think I wanted to get one, but I didn't want to spend my own money, and my mom didn't want to buy me one at the time. And I don't think I bugged her about it anymore for a while, and so I never got a guitar until I was 19. And when I got one, I practiced instantly. I would practice like 12 hours a day. So I remember I had a job somewhere. I was working at UPS, and then I quit that job, and I had about 6 months, and then all I did was play guitar, and I practiced like literally 12 hours a day. And like literally after like 3 months, I was already teaching and I was already in bands and stuff. So I've almost
Wow.
I've been a full-time musician just about as long as I've been playing. So, it's just, that's the one unique thing. If you practice a ton, if you get obsessed with something, you actually can, be, have some success pretty quickly, Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. I definitely agree. So did, in your beginning of your beginning obsession, did you bother your friends and family with holding a guitar everywhere you went? Did that ever happen? Because I know stories about
Well,
that.
you said holding it wherever I
Yeah,
went?
yeah. Like if you're always with it. So I play guitar.
Oh, yeah, I was always with it. Yeah.
I started playing guitar when I was 16, and I couldn't put it down. And I mean, it's just a hobby for me. But I remember I'd be nicking it on the sides because I'd be holding it while I'd be walking, even if I'm not playing. I'd just be like holding it and going through the house. You hit it on the doorway, and they see you come in the room, like, you gonna play guitar again? And you just like want to hold it, So
Yeah.
that's just fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I did that. I probably was a little bit more reclusive, so I stayed in my room more maybe. But I practiced. I was practicing it a lot, and I would be up till 3 in the morning, and I'd be loud and late at night, waking people in my family up and stuff like that. So I moved out really shortly after that, though. But so I didn't annoy them too long with that, because. But yeah, no, I did practice like a crazy person, So literally, I was like literally all I did, for about a year, and for maybe about 3 years, that's about literally all I cared. Maybe longer than that. It's about all I cared about, and that was all I wanted to talk about was music, and so I was super obsessed with,
So when you first got the guitar, how did you feel? Was it just like, did you know, oh my God, I have to do this?
It was just kind of like the same feeling you get if you're a video gamer when you get like a new video game console. It's just kind of like that, like just like I don't know. It just felt like this thing that it was really cool to have. I don't know. And it just was this cheap. All I had, it was just this cheap fake Stratocaster that I got from Best Buy that comes with like a DVD of how to play guitar and then that really bad, terrible Fender amp that they still make for whatever, that little cheap, I think it's like a 10-watt Fender amp, or maybe not even 10 watts or whatever. And it's just the worst amp ever. And then, I had that, and I was playing that, and what else? And I just, I think the first song I figured out how to play was this song called 25 or 6 to 4 by Chicago. And it's just this da-da-da-da-da. Just 5 power chords, and I would play that over and over again, and I never got tired of just playing that same thing over and over again. I would play the same song over and over again, everything I figured out how to play, stuff like that. And so and then I saw this movie that I remember I'd seen this, like, vaguely remembered seeing this guitar movie when I was a little kid, come on TV. I didn't see it in theaters, but because I'm not, I was, not old enough to have seen it in theaters. But it was basically Crossroads. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've definitely been familiarized with that. Yeah.
And so it's basically a guitar version of Karate Kid. Pretty much. And Ralph Macchio is the guitar version of Karate himself, pretty much. A guitar Karate Kid, basically. And he's got the sensei. It's just this black dude, this old black guy. He's kind of like the Mr. Miyagi. It's the same story, it's just guitar. And pretty much, the same story. There's a girl, whatever. It's the same exact story. And I actually didn't care much for the movie now that I think about it. But at the ending scene where he gets in a duel with Steve Vai, who's playing the bad guy. He's playing like the devil's guitar player, pretty much. The devil's like hired gun or whatever. It's the attitude of how he played the guitar made me realize, oh, this is what I got to do. Like, this is what I want to do. And then I found out about the Steve Vai, and I would watch his interviews. He would talk about how he would practice 12 hours a day, 10 hours a day. And I said, okay, well, that's what I got to do. And so Steve Vai became like my first guitar hero. And I would practice, just like him, like 12 hours a day, not the same stuff, but the same attitude and mentality. He's more of an influence on me on like kind of my attitude of how I approach the guitar. more so than how he sounds, but just like, what he talks about, what he was talking about at the time,
Yeah. Wow. That's great. So it doesn't seem like there was a time where you're like, I want to play, but I don't know. And then you go do something else. You were just in it. That's great.
Pretty much. I was like studying like computer science in school, and the reason I was studying that is because part of me wanted to be like a game developer, because I used to like video games a lot. I don't play video games much anymore because I actually get obsessed with guitar so much that everything else I just stopped doing. But I was trying to balance those two things for a while, and then I realized I started being more realistic and realized I was far more realistic for me to make money playing guitar than I could learning about computers. So, and so then I just started doing that, so, and then ever since then, that's been, what I've pretty much, have done full time.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great thing. I definitely love guitar and all instruments. I'm a big music lover, and whenever I see one, I have to play it myself, so I can relate for sure.
Yeah.
And
what kind of what kind of music are you into?
Let's see, what am I listening to right now? Funny enough, I'm listening to like a kind of electronic, like avant-garde electronic stuff on Spotify, which I love Spotify because I'll like find one song that maybe I know, then I make a radio out of it, and then I start finding all this music I don't even know about. But definitely my roots are like classic rock and also classical music, because I studied classical music and commercial music in college. And that's where they all came from. But can you tell us about True Virtuoso Studios? When did that start, and what is it about?
True Virtuoso Studios, that's one thing I do. That's just the name of what my lesson studio is called. So basically, I just wanted to come up with I have a lesson studio because I teach. I teach also on top of playing, performing music pretty regularly. And so it's just called, that's the name for it. And the reason is because, it's true. The word virtuoso resonates with me because I always wanted to be a virtuoso guitar player. At least that's the first thing I wanted to be. Now it's a lot more broad, my goals have become after I realized that the days where I feel like the days where you could just make it being a virtuoso guitar player alone, and it's very tough just to make it as that, like your Steve Vais from like the 80s, those guys, they can make a living doing that, but it's not to say that you can't, but it's a lot, there's a lot more virtuosos and a lot less room for virtuosos. But anyway, virtuoso kind of like, I remember watching like this saxophone player for Frank Zappa, and she was talking about how a true virtuoso is, someone who can say whatever they need to say on the instrument at any given time. And, the typical definition of a virtuoso is just a extremely technically gifted musician. But that's why I have true virtuoso, because what's a true virtuoso is kind of, to me, a true virtuoso is just someone who is the best at who is in the top of what they're doing. Mm. To me, that's my favorite definition of the word virtuoso. But it's all of those things. It's an extremely technically gifted musician. It's an extremely someone who certainly can handle any musical scenario thrown at them. Someone who can say whatever they need to say, or someone who's at the tops of what they're doing. So that's kind of what I want my students to feel. They can be a virtuoso or a true virtuoso. Whatever they want to be, they can become the best at what they want to be. So
yeah,
that's where
great.
that comes from.
Very good. Yeah, that's exciting. That's inspiring. So how long have you've been teaching? You said about maybe 6 or 7 months after you really were playing hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did that come about? Why did you decide to teach?
It happened just naturally. My first experience teaching was teaching probably a friend at the time who I was trying to get to play in a band. And I was like, okay, well, we're just starting a band, kind of like you start a band, you kind of try to find people to start it with, and you get your friends to do it. So I have my one friend playing bass. I knew another friend who had a drum set, and then I wanted another guitar player. So I was teaching my other friend how to play. and I learned how to teach off of him. So, basically, so he got the worst of me, I guess, but as a teacher. But I was teaching like right away, and so almost right away, like literally probably 3 months, I was starting teaching, and then I was actually playing guitar in a guitar center, and a lady just came up to me and heard me playing, and she asked, "Do you teach?" And I was like, and I told her how, and she asked me how much did I charge, and at the time I think I said $40 for an hour or something like that. And which is, a pretty reasonable price for a guitar lesson. But if you think about it, it's pretty good money to the average person to make $40 an hour, even though that's one student. And she agreed to that, and I taught her for a long time. And I realized, I was like, I can make a living doing this because, if I can make $40 an hour from one student, and I'm just starting to play, I know that I can get more students. And I know that, not to mention, I can play gigs and play shows and write my own music and all that stuff. So I knew that I could do it for a living. I knew that I could reasonably do music for a living, not just, obviously you have to be able to dream big. You have to be able to do that. But I knew that like I could even be realistic about it and approach it like from a very realistic way and actually, at the very least, make a good living doing music. At the very least, whether people recognize me or not, I know I always can support myself playing music. I knew then that I could do that. And so that's what made me, no one's going to convince me to do something else, because I was like, no, they're not going to pay me they're not going to give me what I can get from the music business. The music business is going to give me more than what these other jobs can give me. I had job offers for, random jobs, and people were trying to convince me to take jobs doing all kinds of stuff. They're like, yeah, well, you can still pursue music, you can still do music, but you could work this job and you can support yourself. And to me, it seems very reasonable to think, oh, well, I can work a job and I can do that, and then I can, do music, in my free time. But that was not reasonable for me at all, because to me, that's time away from music. And, I knew that every time spent away from music was not helping me in music. So I just, turned down jobs and things like that. And I had like 5 hours worth of work, and I was really, really poor, even though I was making good money for my time. With the students I had, I was super poor. Like I was poor, dirt poor for a long time. And I was determined that I wouldn't do anything else. And so I lived in this little shack, and I would practice all day, poor. And, I had like 5 students. And if one of those students canceled on me or something like that, then I just didn't eat or something. I was really
do
poor,
like a fast, 24-hour fast.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. That's good rationale. I mean, for the determination it needs. That's really cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I know what you mean. If you have students, but it's not like you have 8 hours a day of students at $40 an hour in the beginning.
I had
that's
5
not
hours a week.
Yeah.
I had about 5 hours a week, and then that's if nobody canceled on me. So for a while, it takes a while to build up students. Now, after a couple of 2 years now, I have a lot of students, and actually I probably have more than I need right now because I have so many gigs and shows that I'm doing too, that I'm trying to, it's kind of, I have a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it sounds like with that the True Virtuoso Studios, you can perhaps, I don't know if you do already, you can have other musicians come under that maybe and branch them out or something later, or if you have so many students.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's definitely something I'm looking into. Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
So can you speak about songwriting? Because I know you don't just play technically, but you do the whole songwriting as well. How did you get into that?
Yeah.
Did that happen after you started teaching, or what?
No, I mean, I started writing songs pretty much right away too. I noticed that I would just I knew a couple of chords when I first started playing, and I would just kind of mix them around. And I thought these chords sound cool together. And so I would keep playing them, and they eventually became a song, the group of chords. Then I put words to it. Then I started writing the words first. But, I came up, I still play a song that I wrote very early in my career. That's actually, you can find it on, iTunes, Spotify, or whatever. A song called Don't You Ever. I wrote that song when I first started playing guitar, and it hasn't changed much at all since I wrote it. And I wrote that when I had, very limited guitar ability. That's cool. That's up there on Spotify and all of that stuff, or any platform, or my website, JordanGillisMusic.com, or however you want to get access to it. And so I started writing songs right away. And then I remember watching an interview from another guitar player talking about how, you need to be writing songs at every skill level that you're at, because that's why a lot of, not all obviously, but a lot of people who've been playing music for a long time, they get really good, or they just end up in a cover band, or they just end up in doing, they never write their own music. They just end up, maybe like a lot of classically trained musicians only basically, play the classical music that they read, and they never write anything. And it's because they've never been encouraged to write anything. And they always probably never thought that they were ready to write anything, and they always felt like their skill level wasn't where it needed to be to write a song. But you should write songs at every skill level that you're at, no matter where you are. If you know 4 chords and if you got a song idea and a melody in your head, you should write a song off of that, and that's how you continue to write songs. And that's how, there's something about the early innocent stages of your songwriting that, you write great songs at that level, at a low skill level. And there's a lot of great bands whose the guitar players never even really got to that great of a skill level, who people have criticized for not being that great, but doesn't mean they're not great songwriters, and songwriting is, do it at every skill level, and
That's a great point. Yeah, to not wait like, when you're ready, you can write a song, because if you just practice writing a song in the beginning, as you get better, it'll be easier to just not think about writing a song, but just write a song. Yeah. That's a good tip. Yeah.
And you can always tweak your song later if there's something you would add to it or change it or whatever. It's not like you're stuck with that song, playing it the way it was when you wrote it when you first started. Even though I still, like I said, that one song, I still play it pretty much the way I played it when I first wrote it, you know, and I'm definitely much better than I was when I wrote it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
That's, I think there's like a name for what we were just talking about. I kind of forgot, but I know that there's a really cool book called Think Like Einstein. I believe that's the title. And it talks about how Einstein in his early stages created so much. And then as his career went on, there was like a lull or like a time that he wasn't as, I don't know what the word is, creative or something. And he kind of had to go back to his roots in the beginnings. And then when he thought that way, he invented all these new ideas and all that stuff. So that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to check that out.
Yeah, it's really, really good book. And I guess it, simply put, is the beginner's mindset. Because everything's new and you just want to do everything, so you're not thinking so technically. I know that kind of happened to me because after I started learning music theory, I started thinking so like a scientist about music, which is cool too. But I remember writing songs and then you're thinking, well, is it the 2 to the 5 chord, or should I do the 3 to make it not so typical, you know? And then you have to just drop it and just be, you know.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah, it's definitely a fine line. Kind of trying to balance your knowledge with limiting your creativity. And it's, when you learn about music theory, like I love music theory too. Like, and even like, I love that kind of thing. But yeah, when I originally wrote my first songs, I didn't understand why. Why is it that these chords go together, that it sounds good? I didn't understand the reason for that. And it helps. And there's songs that I probably would never write because of my knowledge, that I might have written, when I had no knowledge, and so yeah, it's a double-sided coin kind of thing,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I've met people who are afraid to learn music theory because they're afraid it's going to hurt their creativity.
Yeah. So. It's definitely a balance.
Yeah,
I love it, man. I used to talk music theory all the time, because I was around all the people that talk it, and then when I graduated from the music program, then you can't really talk to anyone. I mean, a couple of friends that play it, but it's pretty funny. It's such a language. It's such a language.
Yeah, I talk to people. I used to love secondary dominance. So you can take it's supposed to the 6 is going to be a minor chord, but you can turn that to a dominant chord and that'll change the key or whatever. Or you could take the instead of the if you want to change the key, let's say you're in C major and you got a D minor, and you turn that D minor into a D half diminished chord, now that's going to take you to the key of E flat, stuff like that. Like, because you substitute that minor chords for a diminished chord, and it's the leading tone to an E flat major and stuff like that. Like, you know, how you change the keys, and I was like, oh, you could do this in all the chords and stuff like that. So, yeah, like I like stuff like that too. You know, like I can.
That's fun.
And I love drive, and my serious students, that I'll drive them crazy about that kind of thing too. Like, you know, my students, and that's kind of where I get to vent all of that energy out of my poor students.
Cool.
You know?
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, when you said that, it all came back to me. A lot of that, you know, deceptive cadences, and that's really cool. I still have my harmony book, which is like madness. I think music theory is like equally as difficult and challenging as all the other sciences and all that stuff.
I mean, yeah, this really is a science, and like the, you know, the different, and it's basically, I mean, you could break it down. There was this one book that was all about like just the vibrations and those numbers, and it didn't have any keys in it, but it just had, I forget what the book was called, but it just literally had the different vibrations pretty much, and what those were, and how they all kind of together. I forget what it was. It was a book, and I can't remember. I was reading about the book in another book. I can't remember what book it was. But
that's cool. Yeah, there's
I don't have that.
There's like overtones that, I don't know if this is maybe what you're talking about, but it's equally as cool. Is the overtones, and like when you hit one note, technically after it's held, an overtone, whether it's, I think it's like either a fifth, and then like another interval, and then another interval, and it's like a pattern. And like the way I remember it is also I'm kind of tangenting, but it's always out there in the atmosphere technically, because it keeps like splitting in half, and you can't really stop it or something. It's pretty intense. Hey, you'd like this book, if you haven't read it, called Your Brain on Music. And I could put it in the show notes for you and everyone listening. And it's this scientist, I believe he's a scientist, definitely someone like that, but he's also a very good musician. And he wrote this book, and just so many interesting points about how music affects our brain, and why perhaps we have that syndrome where you hear the same song and over, you want to get it out of your head. Yeah. So it's really cool.
Okay, music, Your Brain in Music.
Your Brain on Music. Like, you know how Your Brain on Drugs, like one of those things. Yeah. Your Brain on Music. Gotcha. Yeah.
Cool, I'll check that out.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Speaking of overtones, there's this another song I wrote. It's called Dreams. It's also I've released. I have 3 basically acoustic EPs out right now.
Very cool, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So if you listen to that one, you can hear the overtones in that one, because for whatever reason, I don't even understand why, and this is one thing I don't know why, but there are certain spots in the guitar that resonate and have more overtones than other spots, and I don't know why that is. But for whatever reason, a lot of in the key of like G major, E minor, there's a lot of overtones in that key that you can that I can hear anyway. And so in that song, like, I can hear the overtones, and I hear that more than I hear the actual chords now. Like, I'm hearing the overtones, you know, in the recording of, and that's kind of why I think I like that, playing it in that key right there, is because of that. You know, I don't know, you know, I could play that in any key or whatever, but I think I like it that most in that key because of those overtones that I'm hearing more so in that key. Like, you know, because in the fifth, if you hit a harmonic, you can hit on the 5th fret, you can hit it open and it rings out. The 7th fret, 12th fret rings out. It's very hard. You can get the 3rd fret to ring out pretty good, but you got to like hit another overtone before it. You know, that thing we go ping, ping, ping.
Yeah,
you know,
I was going to ask you if you could explain what a harmonic is to those that don't understand that.
Like a pitch harmonic, well, you know, it kind of happens on the physical standpoint of it, it happens on the guitar when you don't press down all the way on the fret, when you kind of rest your fingers softly on the fret. And, you know, if you press down all the way on the fret, you're just going to get the note to ring out. If you don't press down, if you lift off too much, you'll get a muted note. It'll just be muted. But if you're just softly hovering over the note, you'll get half of a note. What it seems like half of a note. And that's like your overtone. And there's these ping sounds that you'll get. And so I throw those into my songs too, those little pings. And and you can really hit them really well on the 5th fret, 7th fret, 12th fret, and the 3rd fret. If you you can't always get the 3rd fret to ring out right, but if you hit another harmonic before that on one of those other frets, then you usually can get the 3rd one to ring out, the one that happens on the 3rd fret. And then for whatever reason, it doesn't happen as much on the other frets. It's a lot harder to get them to ring out. But there's other ways you can get them to ring out on different frets. If you're holding other chords and then you go, a 5th up, you can get those harmonics that way. You know? So, yeah.
It's all good stuff. Ah, man, makes me want to go play guitar right now.
Yeah.
So, I should show you. You'll probably flip out on my guitar. My godfather gave it to me when I was 17. I don't know if you can see it that well, but it's pretty.
Yeah, no,
it's pretty cool. It's just like an off-white kind of gold, interesting thing. And
that's a pretty cool pickup configuration too.
Yeah, just the design
slanted
is
humbucker. It's got a slanted humbucker, then a single coil, then some kind of cross between a single coil and a humbucker, like one of those old school soap bar pickups on the neck. That's pretty cool.
Thanks.
I'd show you some of my guitars. Mine stay in the car because I play so many gigs now, and they tell us don't leave them in the cold. Yeah. But I just do, and I've been doing it for 3 years, and my guitars, they play fine. I leave them in the heat, I leave them in the cold, and they play fine. And I've been doing that for 3 years, and my guitars do just fine. But I know I'm not supposed to, but luckily I live in a place where I can safely leave them in my car because my house is a little bit secluded, and it's people have a hard time finding my house. And so I can leave them in my car or whatever. But, you're not supposed to do that. But I don't feel like bringing them in all the time. I'm tired after a gig. I don't feel like loading all my gear in the house and then going back out and do it.
Yeah,
I'm not doing it. So I just leave it in the car pretty much. So all the guitars that I gig with are in the car. But the only guitar I have is this cheap $60 guitar that I leave around the house. And it's a guitar that I got from it's kind of like a sad story behind it because the guy who I got it from, he was selling stuff because he had cancer, and I used to teach at this music store called Dundalk Music in Baltimore, and basically he had cancer and he was selling stuff. I didn't think he needed money, and I didn't know that that's why he was selling stuff at the time. And so I think I bought the guitar from him for $60 or something. I think he wanted 80, and I said, I have is 60 or something like that. And I got the guitar. It was a cheap guitar, but it was I liked it for some reason. It was a really good acoustic guitar. And then that guy died shortly after that. And so I just kind of feel bad that he was a guitar tech. He was a repair guy. And, and I just kind of feel bad. And so he had it set up really nicely, even though it was a cheap guitar. And that's probably why I liked it. And so anyway, I just feel bad about that because I feel like, he was just, he didn't have health insurance. So he just was trying to make money to save his life, kind of. He was selling stuff, and I didn't know that, and I even haggled him down on his guitar, and I feel, but I don't think I had no clue about it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's good. It's living on. It's his music somehow, and his soul's being played through the guitar. Yeah. Hey. Oh, man, interesting.
I always kind of joke that it's, so that guitar, it's a good guitar still. It's a cheap guitar, but I can still play on it, and
that's cool.
And I usually just leave it around the house and teach my students with that guitar,
nice,
and stuff like that. Yeah,
cool. Now, I wanted to ask you a little more about when you were talking about keys that you really like. Do you have any recommendations for people if they're writing songs and they're trying to find the perfect key for them? And let's say they sing also. What do you think a good way to do that is?
Well, I guess find a key that you can hit all the notes that you intend to hit. If you can hear the melody in your head, and you can easily hit the notes for those songs. That's a good key to start with, and which is why a lot of guitar players play an E flat, because like Hendrix, a lot of his songs are in E flat. Stevie Ray Vaughan, Nirvana. Those bands all, mostly played in E flat. It's because that's a good key for their voice, So, all I'd say is finding a key where you can, the full extent of your vocal range, you can comfortably achieve the full extent of your vocal range. you know, pretty much you can hit the highest note of your vocal range without struggling. You know, that kind of key is what I, you know, guess I would recommend, you know, so.
Makes sense.
Yeah, definitely build a key around your voice for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and that's different for everybody. You know, whether you're a girl or a guy, you know, E flat might be a terrible key for you, you know, depending on where, you know, you could be a tenor, a baritone or whatever. And, you know, everybody is different. So everybody has a different range, you know, so.
Yeah. And I have a good question. I think is a great question. What does the word creativity mean to you? And like how broad is it or narrow is it to you?
Creativity, I guess it just means, it means your ability to do something, to make something new that's basically never been kind of done before, I guess. It's a good question. I mean, I guess I can say things I appreciate about creativity.
Yeah.
And songwriting is like, I find it really creative when a guy uses one word for two purposes. Like, and it's like a lyric wise. Like, so like there's this one song by this band called, I think they're called Steel Pulse. I mean, they're like a reggae band. And he says, wipe that teardrop from your eye was, and then the next word is was. So he's basically saying I was, and he's also saying wipe that teardrop from your eye. And it's using the one word as two words kind
I like
of thing.
that.
And I always find that kind of thing really cool, like to use one word for two purpose.
That's really cool. Yeah.
You know, and so, yeah, using, you know, that to me is like one example of creativity. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to describe creativity, but yeah, things like I can just kind of say things I appreciate about creativity. Yeah, just kind of, that's one example. You know, there's also the really rhythmic creativity. Like I've noted, I was listening to this album by the Aristocrats. I don't know if you know who they are, but
maybe
they've got. I don't know if you know who this guitar player named Guthrie Govan is. He's an insane virtuoso guitar player, basically, just insane, just kind of like. And anyway, he plays with other insane virtuosos, respectively, on drums and bass, and basically, they you know, do a lot of cool stuff. But yeah, a lot of the rhythmic stuff that I was hearing in their stuff, in their music, and it's all instrumental. That particular, like, and my influences are all over the place. I like a catchy song, and I also like weird syncopated stuff. So I like it. You know, I like a normal song, you know, a regular just catchy song. But I also like, you know, stuff like that, you know, where it's a little bit more. So that, you know, where it could be creative. Rhythmically, it can be creative just in the lyrics. It can be creative in just how the, you know, there's so many ways to be creative. So it can be creative in the sense that it's generic. I don't know. You know?
It's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try this. I mean, yeah. And now, what if someone says to you, I'm not creative, Jordan, what do I do? Do you have any tips or ways to like prime their pump?
That is, I've been experimenting with that because I've had people tell me that. Yeah, it's hard to help somebody who thinks they're not creative and to be creative. You know, it really is hard. You know, the first thing I can do is tell them to listen to music and to trust their instincts as much as possible. You know, you can't be second guessing yourself. You know, I have some students of all talent levels. So some students that I've had will be like, and I play with people of all talent levels too, you know, in different band scenarios. And, but I get to talk to my students more, you know, a little bit more and kind of give them more advice. So like with my students, I'll tell them, you know, like I have one who's just like, how do I know what, you know, that I play the right note? I'm like, does it sound good to you? Like, you know, because you're just improvising. I can't tell you whether it's right or wrong. You know, you got to just play. And if it sounds good, and there are some people who have no clue. Like they don't hear anything when they play. It's hard to describe, but so I really don't know what to tell people who, a lot of them, you know, I try to tell them, hey, listen to more music. I try to think of what the best thing is to tell them, you know, but I really don't, necessarily know what the right answer is to people who don't feel creative, or who maybe in the traditional sense really aren't creative. I don't really know what to tell them sometimes.
It's tricky.
But I try really hard
Yeah.
to give them,
That's good.
So that's still something I'm dealing with as a,
you have to be creative about how to explain how to be creative. I mean, that's it. That's also creativity as far as I'm concerned, that just looking at it a different way that might work, or at least something you can try differently. And that could be just a very simple form of creativity.
Yeah.
But
But I think ultimately it's like, what sounds good to you in your head, making it into something, and that's being creative. That's you sharing yourself. Like, this is what sounds good to me in my head.
Yeah.
And, and them being able to put that out there. If you have nothing in your head that you are hearing, I don't know how to.
If you're not human or not.
There are people who aren't really hearing anything. I've had all kinds of students, and some of them don't. Some people don't, have like a natural sense of rhythm. Like if you snap your fingers or clap your hands. I've had people who can't do it at the same time. They can't do it at the same time as you, or clap. They're just like they're watching you and trying to clap at the same, trying to
instead of feeling
it. I'm like, don't look at me, just feel it. Or or even if I have a metronome going, I'll be like, don't look at the metronome, just listen to the metronome. And then they'll have a very hard time doing that. Whereas I have other students who just like that get it. And I believe all of them can be successful. Whether I believe that same student who has trouble with rhythm, maybe he'll be really good one day at really odd rhythms or odd time signatures or something like that. And I you don't know. So I believe in all of them, but it's just
That's great. No, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, someone, if the rhythm's not on, they could like use that what people would call maybe like a negative thing they have to something positive for a song, like a very avant-garde song or something that might work. Yeah. Very cool.
And then there's people that that you're playing with around here in Baltimore. I'm in Baltimore, and and it's just kind of, you meet different people who. Some of them just are good at playing covers. Some of them, and they never will write a song, and you'll never know that, because they sound like they're creative. But then when they just want to do covers. They don't have any interest in writing music. And then there's other people who obviously are don't ever want to cover somebody else's music, and that's all they'll ever do is write their own music. And so you meet those kind of people, that kind of thing too, and so yeah.
I think there's a lot of benefits to covering people's music from your own. Like, if you're trying to write songs, it's good to cover people's music, but it's also like how you were saying, some people don't want to learn music theory because they feel like it's going to stifle their creativity. That's how I was in the beginning with covering songs. Like, when I started guitar, all my friends were learning other people's songs. I'm like, I don't know how to play anyone's songs, but man.
Yeah.
And then
I was like,
yeah.
Yeah. I was exactly the same way.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And then when did you start, and why did you start covering songs?
I started because I realized that learning covers that does teach you a lot. One, it does expand your creativity because you get ideas from covering other songs, and two, it also you can make money doing it. And I felt like if I could sustain myself playing music, that's the next level that I need to get to, because it's no good for me to have to sustain myself doing something else. I'd rather sustain myself to doing music than doing something else. And there are people who look down on cover bands, who just play covers and like, yeah, well, they're a cover band. I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't mean that they don't write their own music too. And it doesn't mean that, I'm like, you don't support yourself. And there's a lot of people who have this kind of, I don't know, uppity kind of vision about it, where they think, oh, I'm too creative to be in a cover band, but you're not too creative to work at Best Buy or wherever you're doing. You're still doing that. You're still spending your time doing something that you have no passion for to support yourself. So I think it's a step in the right direction. If you can make money doing music, at least, you can still put your own creativity into the song. But yeah, is it ideal to be in a cover band if you want to be recognized as a songwriter? Obviously not,
Well, the Rolling Stones, and I'm sure a lot of other people, like, they started as a cover band.
So the Beatles,
right?
were in Germany playing tons of covers,
and then they throw in one of their songs to see how people react, and then that's how it happens. Cool.
Yeah, and it helps you write songs better. And you definitely get influenced by those other songs. And I know, and that's one thing I noticed with playing with other people who didn't write cover songs. Their ideas became like pretty much you hear the same ideas a lot after a while, and you'd be like, yeah, you played that kind of idea before. And that's why all your songs sound the same or whatever, because they just kind of, they haven't branched out and reached into other ideas and learned new rhythms and new ways of playing things. I have to say that there's plenty of people who barely ever learned anybody else's songs who play uniquely, and that's not the case. But there's there's definitely there are definitely those people too.
That brings me to another question about, for people trying to make a career in music, what do you think? What type of person is a good fit for the music industry? What type of person do you have to be to continue and not give up, or to just do this so you can get to that next level? Yeah,
that's a good question. Depends on what level you get to. Because like I said, there are obviously people that are. If you just want to make it as a musician, I think you have to have a good balance of creativity and kind of business sense, and also a really strong willpower to not quit, because you're going to definitely experience a lot of negativity, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes too, and that are going to be really discouraging to you, and I'd say, and you can't also be so hopeful. Like, you gotta you be really ready for a disappointment. That's what when people say, oh, well, this guy says he's going to call me and put me on this show or whatever, or this guy's going to give me a record deal or that, and I'm like, oh, okay. I don't ever get my hopes up. Not that I'm not hopeful that it'd be something good, but if it's not, then I'm just going to keep going right on with the music career. Whereas I think some people get hopeful and then they get disappointed and they can't handle it at all. So you got to be really willing to handle disappointment. And you got to really do music for the love of music and not for the love of fame or whatever. And so really you got to really do it because you love music, is another reason. But I'd say what's helped me to make it is the fact that I also learned how to be for me, I also learned how to be kind of a good entrepreneur at music. I've learned how to get myself booked. I led a band. I'm the band leader of the current band I'm in the band. Before this one that was in my name, I was also the leader of that band. And I had to leave, and I had basically shut down that band because I was doing all the work in that band, and basically it was a band that was about everybody in the band, but I'm doing all the work in it. And so I just say, well, I'm going to do all the work. I'm going to just do all the work for myself, basically, because that's, and so I let that band go. Basically, it was a kind of a conflict of interest to be in two bands, and I basically had two bands going at the same time, and it's just conflict of interest. But basically, learning how to being a good entrepreneur helps, because you have no security blanket when you do music. There's nothing and when all you do is music, there's no contract you have that says this people have to pay you. Everything you have is a temporary contract. There's nothing, even if you're playing a steady gig and the venue loves you, then the owner leaves, and then that next manager comes in and doesn't like you or doesn't know who you are, and then you're from ground zero. Or there's no real security blanket. Only security blanket is your skills that you have and how hard you work at it. So you just got to be really hard working at it, at music at all times, and just and not fazed by disappointment. Pretty much.
And how do you, so getting disappointed early on, did you have a mantra you told yourself, or growing up, did you learn something that helped you with this? Because some people, they're just avoiding disappointment. They avoid conflict. And I think it can definitely root from the beginning of your life, like not practicing that, because, right, everything is practice. So where did you get that? Or do you have tips that you pushed yourself to do to get to that point?
What was the last thing you said you pushed after the word pushed?
Well, it sounds like,
it
sounds like you, I said a lot, I think. It sounds like, you've developed a good way to handle disappointment and keep continuing. So did you find yourself, like, did you learn that early on, or is it something you implemented from something you read or learned?
I think definitely early on in my life, I came from like a really kind of my background is which I kind of rejected as I got older. But I did reject it as I got older. But I was really raised in a kind of very religious, strict environment, and that wasn't what was right for me. But yeah, I was raised in that, and basically you had to commit a lot of time into that particular thing. And I don't need to get into what the religion was or whatever, because I'm not trying to, talk bad about any religion or anything like that. But basically, I learned, because that religion was so strict and so tough, I learned a lot of discipline. So basically we would have to sit for hours and hours for spending time on this thing. And that taught me, I was like, if I can spend hours of my time on that, I can practice for 8 hours. It's easy to do. If I can spend 8 hours doing this, oh man, it's easy to put 8 hours in music. So yeah, a lot of people and a lot of kids I have kids that are really talented, but also really bratty, who've had everything, handed to them, and so they don't have the work ethic. They have the talent, but they don't have like the work ethic. And then you got kind of, you're trying to teach them that. The fact that they don't have that their life is easy is actually kind of their weakness. So having some hard knocks in your life, I think, help you develop discipline. So it does come from an early part of your life. And I guess for people who haven't had that, they need to cultivate that in some kind of way.
Yeah. And I think that, let's say you didn't have that, but you're still doing everyone's doing something for a certain amount of hours, right? So if you have, let's say you have a job or something that, maybe it's nice, but you'd rather be doing something else and getting skilled at something else. If you think that, if you can like, interesting. I like what you're saying, because if you're doing this for 8 hours, why can't you do that? And this is something you don't really love. Of course, you have to do this for money, let's say. But if you did that, why can't you do it for that? And maybe people, maybe myself, maybe we can just remind ourselves, we do this for this long and we don't really love it. So why should I not be doing what I really love? That's just a good reminder.
Yeah, it's kind of like if I told somebody, I said, well, if you don't practice, if that's why I think it was Joe Satriani or something, who he used to say, use this analogy that just sounds really negative, but I think it was something along the lines of, like, what if I told you I was gonna that you better play something really cool right now, or I'm gonna kill your girlfriend or something like that. It was, I think, what he said, or something like this. Like, you just figure out how to play something really cool, and it's just kind of like, if your life is on the line. And I might be taking Joe out of context. I remember something along those lines though, or something about him talking about that. But basically, something along the lines of, like, because your job makes you feel like you really need it to survive, that's why you go and do it every day, because you're scared of the consequences of not doing it. And if you just realize that, you have those same consequences if you don't work hard at your craft. There's nothing official saying that you'll be, it's the same thing. It's just, I don't know, the whole job situation with insurance, and you're officially hired here, kind of give you the illusion of, it's a way that you tell it. It's the same way that, like, you can trick yourself, like early or something, you can trick yourself into being more on time or something like that, So yeah, you have to realize that that's all you're doing is you're tricking yourself when you have a job or when you have these official things that everybody has told you've had to do. You're just basically, you're tricking yourself into being more disciplined, and just do that without the actual official thing there, without the job or without the
find a way to beautifully trick your mind to make sure you do that thing. That's great. And that's not just something innate for people to have. I don't think humans maybe have that. So, if you can, there's probably so many great books out there and inspirational videos of how to do that. So that's the first step. Like, get inspired to do that, and then figure out how to do that. Figure out how you're already doing that in your life, and then see if you can apply it.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, if there was a way you could discipline yourself, like maybe like, you know, have like a program where someone will actually discipline you, like, or they'll take your money and like, if you don't practice, I'll take your money and maybe invest it in something like, I don't know, something good, but still, like, you could trick yourself that way. I don't know. You know, it's hard. It's hard to, you know, it really is. Cultivating discipline, a really hard thing to do. And I'm still trying to do it. I have a hard time doing it for things that I'm not passionate about. Like, I want to be in good physical shape, but I don't always exercise like I should. I want to be super ripped, you know, maybe, but I don't exercise the way I should, you know, or whatever. Or, so
you got to put your guitars like miles away from your house. You got to get a storage for your car, and you park there, and you walk home, and you run home. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, but that's an idea, you know. Like,
I'm a hardcore dude. I might do that. I don't know. I'm pretty hardcore. If you say something like that to me, and, you know, I don't know. I just might. I don't know.
Well, hey, think about it. I mean, if you have your guitars in your car. Oh, wait, no, you always go to your car anyway. I was thinking, like, if you have it somewhere where you don't have to go, you know, even a little bit extra walking, it kind of keeps you active. But I do certain things. My mentality, now that we're speaking of, like, physical fitness, I've always been active, wanting to go and do stuff. And I've joined the gym, and I've been, like, for 3 months really dedicated just as an experiment. But after, like, 2 or 3 months, I'm like, this isn't really fun. Like, even though lifting something harder is a challenge, it's not a skill to me. I mean, okay, I don't want to mess with people's, you know, the dreams of lifting and stuff. Yeah, and I think it is a skill, but after I lift just a little more, I'm like, okay, I completed that skill. Like, I'm more of on the lines where if there's like, I'm kind of into parkour, so, you know, like jumping around and balancing. Yeah. So if I see there's a big gap, it's just like skateboarding. I try to jump over the gap, and I've accomplished that. Now I'll go to the different gap. Anyway, I guess that's the same as weightlifting, but different mindset for me. I don't know.
I know what you mean. As far as lifting weights, I mean, it is not, like I said, not to discourage, but it is. But it is, well, it's kind of silly if you think about it. You're just picking up something, you know, for no reason. Like, and what you realize is that what we used to do is we used to pick up stuff for a purpose. And it's funny because, like, they talk, like, there are gyms that don't have an escalator or going upstairs, or people try to find the closest parking spot to where they're going. And it's like, why? Why do you got to find the closest parking spot? Why do you just park anywhere and walk? Because
Bruce
you're
Lee.
going to get in shit.
That's all right to interrupt, but that's Bruce Lee's idea, and I followed it since I read that in his book. Park far away, just to get a little extra movement in the day, you know?
Exactly, you know, and that's another reason why I learned how to carry my gear, and I used to think, I hate carrying my gear going. But the good thing about it is exercise. You're getting exercise, I'm lifting, you know, stuff, and that's really what keeps me in shape, is really carrying it, you know, playing, you know, because I play a lot of gigs, and I'm always having a low gear, and I could get somebody else to do it, but, like, you know, sometimes now I do have guys that I actually do kind of have, like, a roadie nowadays, but who comes out, but still most, but loading my own gear, and now I think positively about that. I realized, no, one of my goals is to be in shape. This is helping me stay in shape, doing this myself. And then I realized that every physical thing I'm doing that I don't like doing is still better than going to the gym and just doing it, only killing one.
Oh, I think I lost you.
Staying in shape at the same time, you know.
I think I lost you a little bit in that feed, but it sounds
I think I saw it too.
Okay, but I like that idea though. You're carrying, like, if you probably have 2 guitars at least that you're, like, carrying in each hand, right? And that keeps you toned, right? If you're walking into, like, all the way from where you unload to your stage, and then you probably do it again with other stuff. That's a really, I like that, like, thinking positive about something, like, oh, well, I don't really want to do this, but wait, now I do want to do this because it's just that little, and it's a quick thing. And
exactly, you know, and for me, that's usually, like, speakers, because I'll have, like, if I'm playing solo, it'll be an acoustic gig, and I'll be carrying 2 speakers, or I'll be carrying, like, a guitar. I got a double guitar case that I wear on my back, so I'll have, like, a double guitar. So I have to stay really straight, and then and I'll have these speakers in my hand, and it's a good actually exercise.
Yeah.
And have to maneuver with all of that. It's a good exercise. And sometimes I have to go kind of far with it. Especially if I can't find good parking.
Oh yeah.
And I can't find the best parking spot, but it's not a big deal if I can't find the best parking spot or like the closest parking spot to the venue that I'm playing at, because I can carry my gear and get a little bit of exercise in, and then I don't have to be driving around looking for a parking spot close by. I can just walk. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's no fun to kind of walk that far after a gig, but if you just remember, you go to the gym and you torture your body anyway. Yeah, you're gonna do that anyway when you go to the gym. You're just mentally prepared for it. You're just mentally prepared to go to the gym, and so just be mentally prepared for it. After your gig is over, when you're tired. Hopefully, you haven't had too much to drink or whatever, or whatever, So, but then that would be kind of tough. Maybe you don't want to be out there drunk, walking to the car. But,
that's funny. So I tell people that want to just get a little more active, and it's such a simple thing. And what you said is like reminding me, whenever you see a curb, like let's say you're walking across the street, if you see a curb, just try to hop up it. That's it. And if that carries on to stairs, if you go upstairs, if there's a short stairway, just get up there as fast as you can. And that definitely creates a mindset that can carry over to anything you do. And then you really, if you eat, 85% of the time pretty good, and you just find these positive ways to not go to the gym and to actually be active, you should be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, it gets you at least to the point of being like healthy. Like at least you'll have some definition in your body. And you're
not going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger by hopping up curbs and taking your gear, but
yeah, it definitely helps though. It definitely helps. You'll have some definition in your body for sure doing it regularly. Mm-hmm. You really will, just from doing that, just from walking more and from doing everyday tasks. That's the whole point of we used to just everything used to be so physical, and that's why humans.
Yeah,
now everything is. Another thing I do on my gigs is, if I have an acoustic gig, instead of sitting down, like a lot of people say, I don't sit down. I stand up the whole time. And standing up with a guitar, especially on a 3-hour, 4-hour gig, that's a good exercise.
Yeah,
holding a guitar the whole time, that's really good exercise. So stuff like that.
I love that. That's good. Yeah. Now, what about
guys.
Oh yeah, tell me.
Go ahead. Ask the question. Oh, sorry.
So when all these gigs and running your business of teaching and everything is, filling all your time, maybe you get overloaded or overwhelmed sometimes. How do you respond to that? And do you do something, whether it's once a month or every so often? How do you zoom out and kind of get more perspective, recharge?
That's a good question, and it's something I'm always dealing with because I get overworked really easily, like in the sense that I get so much work, and like because I'll get booked for a lot of gigs, and basically, actually, as a matter of fact, I'm working right now in my life because as of right now, I don't have one day where I don't have some kind of commitment, and I'm trying to eliminate one day, and I've picked that day, and I've got maybe one more week of where that's the case, and then I got that day off.
Good.
And I'm not going to make commitments on that day where, I'm not going to teach any students on that day. I'm not going to play any gigs on that day. I'm just not going to do anything on that day. Like, are you free? Yeah, I am free, but not for you, whatever, kind of. So there's that. But then it's finding what you really like. Like, so when I first started, I would do every kind of gig in the book. Like, I've done, I've always wanted to be a versatile musician. So I said, okay, no, if it's a jazz gig, I want to do it. I played jazz gigs. I, obviously play original shows. I got a pretty big original show coming up at the 8x10. This place called the 8x10, and it's on April 5th. But doing like regular gigs, like jazz gigs, or whether it's a rock gig where I'll sing covers and pop tunes and crazy drunk people. And I just figured out, what do I like? And for me, I like gigs that start late at night where people are just drunk and crazy and acting stupid. That's the kind of gig I like. If it's a gig and it's the most fun for me and it flies by and it gives me the whole day to just kind of do what I need to do. Like, everything feels early to me. Like, if it's like a gig that starts at 8 o'clock, I don't know why that feels so early to me. So like the gigs I play, I learned that the gigs I like would start at 10 o'clock or 9:30, you know, and then they end at like 1:30 a.m. And they seem to go by so quick and make good money doing it too. And then it's over. And so I figured out what I really like to do, and which I didn't know because I was just doing everything at one time. And I didn't really understand what I really, really liked. I didn't understand. So figuring out what you really like, what you truly like, you know, yeah, you like playing music, but what kind of gigs do you like to play? Or even what kind of students do, you know, it sounds, as a teacher, obviously at one point in my life, I was willing to teach anybody, but my even standards as a teacher have gone up. I want to teach students that motivate me. I want to teach students that want to at least give 100%, that want to at least give an effort. I don't want to teach students who I have to keep motivating because that brings me down. Me having to say, hey, you know, this is why music is great and why you should like it. No, I don't want to have to do that. I'd rather have students that motivate me, that are challenging me, that want to learn this new thing and want to understand this thing. So finding the things that make me feel good when I am working is one part of it. You know, I want to feel as good as possible whenever I am working so I don't feel so drained when I'm done working. And then the other thing is that, finding that, then setting that space apart and just having that time, that downtime, which I've been kind of bad at. You know, I get into a habit of working a lot, and I'll just keep working and working, and I'll gig, and I'll say yes to. I used to say yes to like every gig, and I'd be playing like 3 gigs in one day sometimes. You know, like I'd be in the morning, then I had an afternoon gig from like 3 to 7, and then I have one at night, and then I'd be like, oh, you're just so exhausted by the end of it. Then I have to wake up early in the morning and play again. And then I got, you know, like last summer just wore me out because I was playing so many gigs, you know. And it just wasn't fun, you know, being so worn out. So, yeah, finding that it seems most people, you know, you tell people you're so busy and everybody's like, oh, that's great. You're busy in music. But, yeah, it gets old really quick when you're just exhausted, not fun anymore.
That's cool that you're, finding, and it sounds like you have, like, finding what actually can recharge you when you're working instead of just working and then being like, all right, now I need to recharge. You can actually allow your craft to recharge you. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then setting those things and continually raising the bar, setting your standards higher and higher and higher. Just, you know, the great thing about being a musician is you do have unlimited potential or being independent in what you're doing. You have of any kind of career, you know, because you have all these little tiny relationships with students, with the venues that you play at, with your record label, with your agents, with your managers, and with relationships you don't like, you can just end them and you'll be fine because you got all these other relationships that you have. Whereas a job, that's the one job you have, and that relationship is extremely important for you to maintain that. Otherwise, you have nothing. So when I'm dealing with a venue I don't like, I'm like, okay, well, I won't play there no more. You know, it's really that simple. You can just be real picky. So it's just kind of, you know, you can just keep being picky and keep raising your standards and keep picking out the things you don't like, you know, just continually doing that until hopefully you get to the holy grail of whatever it is you're trying to get to, you know.
Excellent.
So,
that's great.
Yeah.
And speaking of relationships, what have you learned about dealing with so many different people and booking and just how have you dealt with it and found the most effective manner to handle it all?
Well, I find that being good at what you do is the best thing because regardless of whether they like you or not, if they know that they can make if they know they can make money off of you, it's they're more likely to forgive any mistakes you made or any mistakes or any bad confrontations you've had. I've had run-ins with different relationships that still exist, different agents that I've worked with, different venues, and there's some of them I don't play at anymore. There's some of them I still play with. So one, trying to be good at what you do, ultimately. So that way, if the reality is, like if you had a bad run-in with this particular, maybe this is a booking agent who books you places, but maybe you had a run-in with them, but they know this venue really loves you. They still might have to book you. They may not want to, but they know they're going to because they know that venue likes you, you know, things like that. So one is to be really good That's thing one. And that just means you got to work really hard all the time at your craft. The other thing is just, learning that, showing love to, trying to avoid those confrontations as much as you can. They're going to happen, especially if you're a real busy guy and you're trying really hard. You're not going to be perfect. You're going to do things wrong. And other people are going to do things wrong too. It's how you deal with them. And it's just reminding yourself to handle the situations in a really smart way and not in a really emotional way. Because somebody can be totally wrong and be totally out of line. But, it does you no good to handle that in an emotional way, even if you have the right to. It doesn't do you any good. It doesn't do you any good to handle it emotionally. It does you good to be smart about it, to take a step back and to process what just happened and to then react to it. There's definitely a lot of things I could have done better, Yeah. I've learned, but I think I do better than I did maybe, a few years ago, that I can handle it better every single time something bad happens or something negative happens. How do you deal with that situation? And how do you, or taking the time to just be smart about it, and not reacting right away to it, not being outraged right away. And then that your first reaction, so that's the second thing. I don't know if there's a third thing. I guess, just those two things are pretty good. And then I guess just being nice to everybody and being, being loving to everybody, kind of, in a sense. Music business is all about being supportive of everybody. Or you show love. If you're nice to people, people are nice to you, nicer to you. Mm-hmm. It really is. I mean, if you're just a cool guy, people are going to be cool to you. So you got to do that too. Just, every other musician, they're technically, especially if they play in the same places that you do, and they play similar music to you, or anything, they're technically competition, I guess. Mm-hmm. But if you show love to those people, you say, yeah, man, he's really great, check this guy out, or you help him get into a venue, it's not going to hurt you to do that. You're not going to lose anything by helping somebody else out. You're only going to get more by doing that,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely. Any funny horror stories when it comes to gigging that you care to share?
Yeah, sure. I played at this one venue. I won't give any names, but basically this one venue that's a pretty well-established venue in Baltimore, where basically it's a small place and it's like acoustic or whatever. It's like I was playing solo, and I played there for 6 months every Sunday night. And basically every Sunday night I had to steady gig. It was not paid great though. The gig did not pay great. It paid okay, but you would have some really fun gigs sometimes. Like it's because it'd be packed sometimes, and like I said, I like the gigs with the crazy drunk people who are, I like those kind of gigs, and it offered that, so, and you could still make money from people giving you tips and all that kind of stuff. You could still use that as a way to promote yourself. But basically, one time I played there, I was subbing for somebody else who was playing on a day where I normally don't play, which is like a Friday. And basically there was people there I didn't know. And they have a sound system to where it's their sound system. And basically my sound was faded, not properly. It was faded like into the back of the venue, and nothing was coming out front. And so the lady came and said, "You're too loud, blah, 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 blah," or whatever. I'm like, really? I'm like, it sounds really quiet up here. And then when I realized that it was faded into the back, I said, okay, it looks like it's faded into the back. I'm trying to figure this out. But every time I tried to explain this to her, it was just like they were talking over me and just yelling at me for some reason. So I was just like, look, I'm trying to explain to you. I'm like, this is not my sound system, and I'm not your engineer. So it really, I'm just, it's not my fault that your sound system is wrong. It's your sound system. And so they just kept dealing with me in a really ignorant way. And so after a while, I just said, you know what, forget it. I'm just done. And I just took my check and I said, I took my check and left, and I've never played there again. And that's the way they treated me was so bad. They were so rude. I've never been treated that way in a venue, especially in the music business. And I've had people maybe say this or that, but like never like that. And so it was like really rude the way I was treated. Like even I had the security escort me out as if I was like some drunk guy or something. And wow. I was just like, I'm I'm like, I don't have a bad reputation playing venues. Like, I've played everywhere, and I don't have. This is the only place this has happened. And come to find out that this particular place has had these kind of run-ins with not just me. So it made me feel better to know that other places have had this kind of experience. And that's, but at the time, I kind of was like, was hurt by it, because that they would treat me that way. But yeah, I've had that happen. That's
Good.
one horror story.
Good, you walked away. That's good for you. Walking away sometimes is the best thing you can do.
Yeah. And I haven't missed a beat with gigs. I didn't need that gig anyway. Like, I've got, so, but yeah, at the time it just kind of felt really negative, and I didn't like, and also at the same time, the agents that booked me there, particularly, who know good and well that I've played plenty of gigs for them and done really, fine. Those are the kind of agents, those particular agents did not have my back in that scenario either. And they're going to side with the venue, which is a lot of agents are going to do. They're going to side with the venue right away. And so I also had to deal with that. Well, it was one particular agent. I'm not going to, say them. I'm going to say this one particular one. So, it is what it is. It happened. It's in the past. But that's, I guess, one thing that happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I know it could be tough.
Let me ask you, you gig or what do you?
No. So I'm a filmmaker. So I'm directing commercials, music videos, and stuff like that, trying to push into the feature world. But I've written a lot of songs and some of those songs I've recorded myself, just to my own liking. Like, all right, good, I got it. I used to stay up till 4 or 5 recording all the time. It's been a while since I recorded a song, and I kind of just do it just to get it out of my head. It's like that's in filmmaking. I kind of do that too, but what's out of my head in filmmaking can like make a career out of me. What's in my head with music, I don't know if it has a place. I just kind of do it, Yeah.
That's awesome. Speaking of that, so yeah, I've got a couple of friends. I was working on a film. It was called Welcome to New York. I guess I'll send you the link to that.
Yeah, please.
But my friend, I'm in it I have a couple scenes where I'm actually in the pilot of this TV show or whatever. But basically, I got to do the guitar work for it, and me and my keyboard player, who's also in Jordan Gillis' band, he and I, his name is Mike Bodine. He and I got to do basically the music for this movie. And Mike does editing as well, so he did a lot of the editing of the film. So if you're ever doing that, and you need some kind of connection, I mean, even if not me, and you need an editor or somebody experienced doing that, I could definitely link you to that. And that was in New York that we did that in. So
wonderful.
Yeah, so I love the film industry as well, and I love film scoring and the idea of composing music with a scenario, because it limits you to that scenario, whether you have 4 seconds or whether to make it sound like that sound is supposed to happen, or you're trying to play something that helps people emotionally feel what the film is trying to make them feel. I like those scenarios. I like the limitations that those scenarios create, because it makes you more creative, because you have you can't just write a song about how you feel. You got to write a song about this particular scenario, and I love that,
Yeah.
So,
Oh, great. That's cool. Film scoring to me is magic, and I love music and film together. Just it's so important. They're so important.
No, I feel like film, a lot of film, like music really makes the movie. And that's maybe one of the problems with newer movies, is that the music's not making. Like, if you saw like a movie like all the epic movies, like, I don't know, going back to like the earliest movie I saw, the earliest movie not that I saw in my life, but just as far as when it was released, where the music really did something. I saw, I think it was Good, Bad, and the Ugly, and then the Western scene and the composition behind that movie is so cool, and it's just like it really makes the movie. And also, what's another one? Like, obviously, like for me, like when I saw Rocky IV, like in the music in Rocky IV, just that music just makes me like the movie that much more.
Yeah.
Like just like something about the music and the fight scene and him training and the music they're playing. it's just like, there's so many examples of movies with like music that just kind of, the music makes the movie, helps to make the movie way more than it, would have been without that music, those are two examples I'm thinking off the top of my head. There's so many. And so, I just think that's so important.
It
and,
is. Well, I mean, even Jaws, what about Jaws? Like, I mean, now we're talking way back, like just that simple minor second, I think it is.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's the one of the first things I teach my students. I'm like, that's Jaws. And all they're hitting is an open E and then the F, E, F, E, F. I don't know if that's the original key it was done in. But
and then it expands in its own world, and it makes you know what movie that is. You know what's happening, Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, and even like the old if you listen to like the old like Tom and Jerry cartoons, like if you watch them and see, or like even Bugs Bunny, and you see that, wow, this music is really composed for every single scene in this cartoon, and it's composed so perfectly with the cartoon that you don't even realize, if you're not a musician, you don't even realize it. Like you just think that you don't even know how it's happening, how you're, but it's like the music is so well, like in those old cartoons, especially like Tom and Jerry and like old Bugs Bunny and all that kind of stuff, like had music really well composed for the scene that fit the scene.
For every second. Yeah. Yeah,
for every second of the scene. And that is so cool. I wish that was just like a standard thing. I wish people that you watch anything that wasn't that, that wasn't, where the music wasn't composed for the music. I know it would be a lot more work, but I think there'd be plenty of people that would be happy to do it, because I love doing that kind of work, composing music for movies and TV shows, or even video games. Another thing, video games. Oh man,
yeah, that you could definitely get into that because you love video games from the past, and then you have the music. Yeah, that'd be amazing. One of my friends, he was on this podcast, and Jake Staley, and he's composed, I think, for the Disney video game with Mickey Mouse, like Fantasia. I think it's Fantasia. They had like the video game, and he did the music for that, and it was really cool. Such a world. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. What's the name of the you said are you working on a film right now currently? Or?
Right now, I'm kind of doing a lot of writing. So just finished writing an 18-page short film, and then I have a feature that's just been in the works for a couple years. I'm just like wrapping up some of the extra tricky dramatic scenes, because I want them to come off super engaged with the person watching it or reading it, and it's such a deep, like, scary scene. Not like boo scary, but just like emotionally scary, that I just really want to shape it, So I'm working on that, and I do plan to shoot these, and that's pretty much what I have going right now. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. That's really cool, and the fact that you're doing that, and you said you're in LA. What part?
Yeah, I'm in Burbank, California. And
Burbank, California.
Yeah, which is basically right next to Hollywood. It's just like off of Hollywood. You don't want to live in Hollywood. If anyone's moving to Los Angeles, don't move to Hollywood. There's the outskirts. It's much better.
I was in. I have a cousin in. When I went out to LA, I've been out there a couple times. But I have a cousin that lives in. I can't think of what it is, but it's on the water. It's Long Beach.
Okay, and, that's a nice place. Funny enough, I was just there 2 days ago. It's an hour away. Yeah. I was in Long Beach, and I would stay with him. Then LA was like a half an hour from there or whatever. So, I was over there with him, and I can always go over be over there with him. But love to branch out and get my career out more into LA, more into more out of Baltimore. That's one of my goals as a musician is to keep expanding, and so I've got a publicist. She's sending stuff everywhere, like all over the world. I guess that's how And at first, I used to try to do that, but it's too much work to do by yourself. And that's one of the reasons why I got somebody to help me with that kind of stuff. So that's great. Yeah, after a while, you can't just do it all yourself. In the beginning, you learn a lot from doing it all yourself, but for sure, that sounds great.
You realize you have to do it all yourself in the beginning because you don't have enough. You don't have enough to show people to tell them that you're worth their time for them to do it, help you with it anyway. And so you have to do it yourself at first, and then you develop some kind of prestige at least, and then more people are wanting to work with you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but it is tough in the beginning. It's just kind of like the word, like you get hit really hard in the beginning, you know?
Yeah.
Because you just realize, oh man, this is hard. This is going to be really hard. I got to do everything myself pretty much, and no one's going to believe in me probably, and you know, and at first, you know, so, and you know, I got to do it all myself, you know.
Yeah. Hey, Jordan, so I have a couple more questions, but first, can you tell everyone listening where they should find you online, and maybe what your social thing is and how they can reach you if they want to reach out and say hello?
Yeah, you can find me on JordanGillisMusic.com. So Jordan Gillis, Gillis, you know, 2 L's, 2 I's, and the last name, and music.com. Also, my Instagram is just at Jordan Gillis Band. And my Twitter is at JGillis Band. My Facebook is just Jordan Gillis Band. So those are all the places you can find me. My music, if you just type my name in, I have an acoustic single EP basically that's called 1,000 Miles. You can check that out, and that has my three acoustic original songs. I'm working on a full band album right now as we speak. Literally getting emails about recording dates from an engineer right now while I'm talking to you, what dates work. And so, but yeah, so working on that full band EP. That'll be at least 4 songs on that EP. That it should be coming out hopefully by May, definitely before the summer. So definitely, you know, hopefully by May. I have another original show at Rockwood Music Hall in New York coming up. So in May. So I want to have that ready by that time. So that's the goal, is to have that ready by that time. You know, many support that you guys can have if you just follow me on Spotify, on iTunes. That helps out a lot. It really does. You know, even if you don't buy a song, if you could just be a monthly listener or anything like that, and that all that helps. So anything you can do to help, if you like the music, of course, you know, that all helps. So yeah, that's all I say about finding me. Yeah. Great.
Very good. All right, I'm gonna just throw some quick questions at you. See what you respond to. What books, or I don't know, maybe you mentioned some movies, but something that you think people listening would be inspired by? What would you say off the top of your head? Whether it's for music or something else that.
Just books? What books I think?
Yeah, books, or if there's a movie that really. Oh, you told us the movie Crossroads that really inspired you. Any special books that you think people should check out?
It's funny because there's not a lot of. I kind of have more like gurus that I kind of listen to and kind of subscribe to more. But as far as like a book that would be good to kind of help people, I wish I could look at the books I have. My office is in there, and I could probably look at a book and pick one.
Okay.
But no.
Or who do you listen to? Who you've listened to, or. Feel free to let us know.
Well, see, I listen. Some of my influence have been like guys like I said, like a guy like Steve Vai has been really good kind of. I've been into as far as music. I was a fan of like this billionaire Elon Musk because he's just kind of making things happen. And I just realized, you know, you're making, you know, you can make anything happen that you want to happen. And so he's, over the past 2 years, was kind of, you know, lately I haven't been really checking it out as much, but he was like a huge kind of like motivation for me to kind of just make stuff happen, and just kind of like anything you want to happen, it can happen. And you can say, okay, well, I want to see this reality in the world, and you can make it happen. So I don't have any specific books that I can think of recommending off the top of my head, or I kind of have like amalgamation of just experiences and people who I've met over the time. And there's a lot of good people that I've met that are mentors to me, and people who I've realized without even realizing in my life that I've met in the music business that have been my mentor, and not necessarily even people in the music business, mostly people in the music business, but other people too. And I didn't even realize they were a mentor. I guess my first mentor was a guy, as an adult, was a guy who I worked at UPS with.
Cool.
And he was just this guy that had this, it was a job where in UPS where you had to sort packages super insanely fast. And it's like a really hard job to do. And like, but I really sucked at it at first. But I kept listening to this old guy named Leroy, and he just kept saying, yeah, just keep doing that or whatever. And I kept listening to him, and eventually, what he was talking about started to work. And I got so good at that job that it was just like, I felt like somebody should be recording me doing the job, but the job was kind of thankless. You're just a factory worker for a big corporation, and they don't care that you're good at that job, and nobody is going to film you doing that. But I got really good at that job, and just, he'd always talked about, whatever job you do, whatever you do, you should want to be the best at whatever you do. If you work in this job, you want to be the best at that job. And he was like my first mentor without me realizing it. This guy, just an old guy that, was still just, he just believed in hard work. And he just, really was a good mentor. And then I had another job. My first job in the music business was teaching at this music shop, Dundalk Music Center. And I think, I had some confrontations with my friend who owned the place, just kind of him teaching me how, how to not to be stupid in a lot of ways. And, when you're young, you don't pay attention to detail, and just pointing those things out and but then still being your friend. At one time I left. Part of what motivated me to go on tour was I got tired of dealing with the stuff that was going on at that job at the time. So I left and went on tour. And I think that maybe made him appreciate me more. But at the same time, he gave me my job back when I came back, and we were, still friends. We're still friends to this day. And he's kind of been, without realizing it, I think he's been a mentor in a lot of ways, because I've learned a lot. And he was also a musician too. He owned the guy that owned the music shop, and so we got to talk a lot about music and jam on music and stuff. So meeting different mentors is really important. Finding different mentors in your life and finding out who those are, and just I don't think searching out a mentor. I think trying to be successful, and those people come into your life and like you realizing maybe it might be a guy you don't like at first. Maybe he's telling you something about yourself you don't like, that you're being, not that you're stupid, but you're stupid right now,
Yeah.
And kind of each help you realize, no, and it doesn't hurt you to realize your flaws and to be better, So
okay.
I guess I didn't answer your question about books, but I'd say finding mentors would be a good
It's a good resource. Yeah, for sure. I like that. Mentors are everywhere. You just have to be open to it. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
it's exciting to see who's going to be like the next mentor, right? Because these stages of life, we're always transforming into something, right?
And then you get old enough and then you get to see yourself become a mentor too. And then it feels interesting because you just, to do that. One of my students was asking me about like dating advice. I don't know. He's, I'm not going to give out a name, but he's a kid who just kind of, it's funny. He's like 15, but he just kind of, and I was talking to him about that, not that this has anything to do with music, but like, so yeah, you see yourself become a mentor too after a while. And I don't know, that's just interesting,
Yeah.
As you,
For sure.
So.
And here's a good one for you. And you could take time, take a couple breaths if you need it. What would you want if it was going to be written on your epitaph? Or for your epitaph. So for your grave one day when we all leave the world.
I don't know. I have a weird view about that because I always, I could answer your question, but I feel like I was talking to a friend about this. If I die, I think being buried in a grave is kind of wasteful, like a little bit. So I'd kind of first of all, would want to be like a tree to be planted and that could use my body as like fertilizer.
Nice.
For the tree. And the tree would kind of be like me watching over whatever it's watching over. So, because I gave that tree the nutrition it needed to grow.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
that's my body is all together when I die. I don't know, but so I mean, I kind of don't necessarily want an official gravestone, but
Okay.
if let's say I had that,
Mhm.
I just kind of I'd want to be known. I guess I'd want to be known for that. I did my part in just trying to make the world a better place. Really simple like that. Just kind of didn't have to be. I didn't have to be known as a guy that saved the world or was like a big hero or anything like that. But hopefully people. There's some people that care when I die.
Yeah.
There.
I like that.
So
I did my part. Something like
Yeah.
that, maybe. Yeah.
I did
it's-
yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I like that idea of having a tree grow above you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, having like a tree grow because it's just kind of like graves are kind of wasteful, and I don't understand why people do it. They do it to remember, and they do it to never forget these people. But I'd rather just have like
Something useful.
And then that tree could be like my gravestone.
Yeah, and then people could climb you, and that's
they could climb me, and then it could also keep the air clean,
Uh-huh.
serve be a home for animals and things like that. So.
that's cool.
And so just bury me and let the worms get to me, and I don't want my body to be preserved once I'm dead. I can decay and become plant food. So
that's pretty beautiful. I mean, but okay, this is the thing. Isn't there silly laws that we can't do that? I mean, isn't there? Do we have to get around that? We have to put a fund, 20% of our earnings to like pay a special guy to do this. I mean, how do we go about that?
If there's a law to do it, I guess I would just hire some thugs to bury me in the ground. And then, if they want to come after me, I'm dead. And I guess the thugs don't mind because they're already going to be breaking some laws. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
But like all I want you to do is bury me. When I die. But it's hopefully they change that. If that is a law. But I don't know what the laws are for that. But I mean, hopefully I'll try to find a way around that. I'm gonna look into it. It's gonna be kind of depressing figuring it out.
Or
because then
uplifting somehow.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, if I'm looking at like my death, I guess I would know I'm going to be dying soon. So hopefully I'm not looking at that anytime soon and looking into that. And hopefully we, as a society, they take care of that by the time that happens. But
Yes.
So there's all kind of things as a society that we're still learning to do better that we're not doing, and so by that time, hopefully there's a little bit less of those things.
Yes. Well, that's a good answer. Interesting. And okay, here's a good one. Do you have a word that maybe that comes in your mind when I ask this that you would constantly be working on or improving for yourself? Like mine is very often it's patience. That's just what I've always tried to work on because I've had some low patience tolerance.
What would be the best word? What's my favorite word? My favorite word is probably I'd say patience is a good one, but I'd probably say as far as success, since you said patience, I'd say it's just something that comes along with I would say discipline is a big word for me because discipline requires patience, and so in a sense, I'm almost saying something similar to what you're saying when I say discipline, because you need patience to have discipline, and that's really all discipline is patience. It's the same thing, if you think about it, it's just you dealing with discomfort or dealing with what you don't like a little bit longer so that you can get a little bit more later. So similar.
I like
discipline.
That. Yeah. I actually, for some reason, I don't think I've put those two together. I like that because you're right. it is kind of the same, but I mean, but it's a little more specific, but you need the other one to continue. That's cool.
Yeah. So discipline is one I would say. I've always talked, kind of about it. It's really part of it's really what's helped me to be successful is discipline. As far as success, if you're talking about like living a good life, I'd say like integrity, knowing what you believe in, what you stand for, and not compromising that for any reason, and things like that. But yeah.
All right. Any last things you'd like to say to the listeners, or any thoughts on like how people could take that next step today to kind of follow their passions?
It just starts with whatever your passions are. Hopefully you have the discipline. Whatever you have, that's what you need. You need whatever reasons you're not doing that. Just think about the reasons why you're not doing it, and then eliminate them, I guess. But eliminate the reasons why you're not doing what you're doing. I don't know. I've tried to motivate people so many times, and I used to be like a real motivation guy, but I stopped trying to motivate people after a while because I really did. Because I realized that it's like there's an old saying, and it sounds negative, but like you can't teach somebody was saying you can't. I forget who was saying it, but you can't teach a pig to fly, and all that's going to happen is like the pig is going to get mad at you. So like if you try to make a pig fly, and it's it's just kind of like I stopped trying to motivate people because they it's hard. People they honestly it's not anything that I can do to make them do what they want to do.
It's in them.
Only thing I could do is to be something. Here's what I would say. If he can do it, you can do it. That's what I would say, because that's where really how my mentality has been. If this guy can do it, then I can do it. And I'm not always right about that. Actually, there are some things I definitely cannot do. I guess you can do everything. You can do anything you put your mind to, except for the things you can't do. But
yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but
it's true to push yourself. Yeah, like over there, they've done it. You can do it. Or you can doing it and see where it takes you, at least,
what is there to lose, by failing at it, At least you won't regret. Regret is a much worse emotion. I think.
That's a loss. Regretting is a loss.
Failure is a much better feeling than regret, So,
that's great. I like that.
Thing I'm into is like, I have like a farm or whatever that I kind of grew up on. And like, it's like on the water and stuff. And it's like, it's funny because it's like everybody else in this neighborhood lives in like, for the most part, lives in row homes and stuff like that. But my family has this like, I don't know, it's a few acres of land, a lot of maybe about 10 or 15 acres that's on the water. And so I've kind of gotten into this whole thing of like growing stuff, like growing my own food and stuff. And I have the space, and so I'm growing like a permaculture orchard. I don't know if you're into that kind of thing or not, but
I would love to be. I am into it. I don't really know too much about growing plants, but I love your own crops. That's so cool.
Yeah, man. It's really something everybody should be doing. I mean, there's it's like a lost skill that everybody used to have, but this thing called dirt, that we walk on all the time. It's important to understand this stuff that we walk on. And like, it's like, if you have like a yard and you're not growing stuff, you just grow on a lawn that you fertilize and that you cut down. And, that's really not serving a real purpose other than just to look a certain way, but you should grow food. You can grow a lot of your own food, and you can be totally sustainable, and it can even be, it can save you money. And it doesn't have to be time consuming either. Like, I only work on it on Tuesdays. I'm growing a really big orchard. It's at least like 1 acre. I got like 50 trees that I'm going to be planting. And it's a lot of, it's a lot of work initially, but the goal is to set it up so that it's basically it's not a lot to maintain it, pretty much. So
that's great. Oh my gosh.
That's one thing. And that's all, among other things, I'm, really into animals and farming and all that, because I grew up around that kind of stuff. But I really want to get smart about it and do it in a sustainable way. Also, I'm going to kind of set it up, and then my parents and my uncles don't know, but it's kind of set up. They're going to maintain it for me. They don't know they're going to do that, but they are. And part of it is to keep my father and my uncles active and keep them doing something. Because they don't have like the mindset of realizing that you need to stay active. You know, you're getting older, and you need something to do. And they my father goes out and just spends money on dumb stuff a lot. And I'm trying to figure out what to do to kind of keep him busy. Trying to keep my same thing with my uncles. They all like that kind of thing. So I know that they'll be into it once I get it set up. And they all love animals. They all love growing things. They all love getting their hands dirty with that kind of thing. So I know if I set something up for them to maintain, that they'll do it.
That's great. That's giving back. I'm
going to set up the work for them to do. They're going to do all the work after a while.
That's cool.
Without them doing it.
All right, that's really cool. I'm happy to hear that. We need more of that. And actually, I was just talking the other day. Like, I don't have like a little area for a garden in the current place I'm at, but like an outdoor garden. But I can do something indoors. I have like a big, huge window, and so I'm gonna start doing something like that. Any recommendations on what I should start with?
It's all kind of things you could do. Like, I was just looking into this thing called aquaponics. Have you heard of that?
No.
So basically, you have like fish, right? And they could be like decorative fish or whatever. But basically, when you feed them, they eat food, and then their waste and the product that they produce when they eat food and drink water is fertilizer for plants. And that water passes through and fertilizes the plants. And so you've got, fish that are feeding those plants that you're growing, and there's no money you're really putting into just those plants specifically. You're really feeding the fish, and the fish are feeding the plants. And really, if you want to go crazy about it, you could even have fish that you intend to eat later. And like, you could even have fish that you eat later. And then, so it's all,
circle. That's beautiful.
Like a big circle that saves you a little bit of money. And you know exactly what you're eating. You're eating fish that you raised yourself, and you're eating plants that you raise yourself, and the setup cost is the only thing you have to pay. Once you get it going, you could even find fish food for free. There's all kinds of ways you can find, stuff that they'll eat for free. There's all kinds of waste that fish will eat. That's good stuff. And, so you could do it completely for free and maintain it. And it'd be just this little cycle that feeds you a little bit, saves you some money. And it's just, so that's one thing, aquaponics. And all you need is maybe like a fish tank and like I've seen this guy, he has like a pipe, and then he has like lettuce and whatever he's growing that grows out of it. Damn. So there's systems you can set up that are really small, so if you want to set up something small, that's one thing I can say. I'm
going to check that out.
The other thing is just like, you could just grow regular stuff, but you could use, your food scraps that you don't use, you can compost that and turn that into fertilizer. And like, because I've always been about like, how do I save, money at the same time, feed myself and also, in a sense, help the environment.
Yeah, natural.
Instead of this going into the trash and being dumped, this is becoming fertilizer, and it's feeding me, refeeding me. You can go really I've gone really crazy. Just like your own urine is fertilizer for plants. I mean, you could fertilize plants with urine, really. If you dilute it, and if you put it directly on the plant, it'll kill the plant. But if you dilute it, it actually is really high quality fertilizer.
Wow.
For plants, and it'll, you can feed plants pretty much on urine, and like not much else. Like maybe like a couple of some organic matter, but not that much. So you're saving money. You're not flushing the toilet every time you take a leak, and you're also, things like that. I'm into stuff like that.
I love that. Yeah, I would love to dive more into that. I've always been into trying to eat organic type foods grown where I trust the people. If I'm going to eat the fish or the chicken, like I know that they were happy, and that's cool. That's right along those lines.
Yeah, but fish is a good place to start. I mean, fish, and they can kind of be decorative. You don't have to tell people that you might eat those later. They can even be pretty fish that you'll eat. Like people think I think tilapia got like a really bad rep because they said all tilapia were bad or something. I don't know if you heard that or whatever. But people were saying tilapia were bad, but they weren't. It's just like depending on who's raising the tilapia. They were at some point they were feeding them like steroids or just really bad stuff and making the fish bad. But no, tilapia aren't bad fish. They're you could grow tilapia, which is a really popular fish, and they're actually a attractive looking fish, and you can eat them. And so that's the most popular aquaponics fish is probably a tilapia fish. But yeah, so aquaponics, there's hydroponics, which is just water and plants, and aquaponics, which is animals, and water and plants.
Wow, that's cool. I feel like that's going to be in my near future. I really think that's beautiful.
Yeah, look into it, man, and you can do it. There's huge systems that people have set up, but there's systems that people have in their house, and it's good practice to kind of set one up in your house, and and you could even probably get, and I'm sure they do that kind of thing in LA. You could probably even get a job or something, a part-time kind of, or even volunteering at some kind of place that does something like that to learn more about it. But yeah, man, all kind of stuff like that. I got like bees and stuff that I raise.
Are you kidding?
Yeah,
Wow.
I keep bees and stuff. And so, yeah, like I do. I'm into. That's the other thing. I didn't used to, like I said, all I used to care about was music. This is the other thing I'm into.
Wow.
So like I got bees and stuff, and the bees kind of pollinate everything and make honey, and they pollinate the plants that I'm growing at the same time. So
that's beautiful.
There's all kind of stuff you can do. And then no matter what you have, if you have like an apartment, you can do it, or if you have like a big yard, obviously you can do it, or a giant yard, you can do it. So I don't know. Maybe if you look up in aquaponics, that might start you on a long journey. That me, I started off looking at, the first thing I saw was bees, and I just was like really interested in it, and that completely got me into this whole permaculture thing. And then I've probably looked at just about everything. Like now, there's so many different things you can do.
Yeah.
And but the thing that started me, for whatever reason, I was looking at bees. I don't know why, and I just kept going back to this bee video of these and what these bees were doing. And this guy was raising bees, and he was eating the honey. And then I just kind of got into that. And then next thing I know, I was into this. And so I was just watching tons and tons of YouTube videos. And that's what I do. I'll practice and watch this stuff. I'll be practicing my guitar and watching, various permaculture style farming, which permaculture, you'll learn about that, is just kind of like a system that you set up that kind of is self-sustaining pretty much. That
I love it.
You don't have to do all the work. It's not like where you have a farm and you got to buy your seeds and your fertilizer. No, it's just a cycle. Yes, it's less profitable in the beginning, and it's a longer term investment, but it's also not as time consuming, and it's more efficient in the long run. So, but it does take a longer time for it to produce.
Yeah, that's so. Here's a food for thought. But have you made a music video yet?
I'm trying to make one very soon. Very cool. Literally within the next month. Yeah. So I'm trying to make a music video very soon. And I got a song. I got one song. It's about this crazy chick, basically. And I've already got it recorded. And the reason why I haven't finished the song is because my engineer, my keyboard player, was done the engineering for this one. And he got into a bad accident. The same guy, Mike, who I was working with, he got into a hockey accident recently. So he's been down. He got hit in the eye with a hockey puck, basically. And so he's been pretty jacked up. But he's been pretty jacked up, and he's just been, and then he's happened to also be working on a movie about hockey. But because that's kind of what him and I think his brother are into, and they're working on this movie about that. But so anyway, so that kind of stalled. But basically, this song is about this crazy chick or about crazy people in general. And then basically, the song is kind of about crazy people. But I'm just saying, I don't care that you're crazy or whatever. The chorus goes, you got some problems in your head, you got some problems in your mind, you got some problems in your mind that won't be fixed, but I just don't care, or something like that. And so it's like a poppy kind of song. And basically I want to just have this song where I got this crazy chick who's like crazy about me or whatever. And she's like tattooing, like carving like my name into herself. And and then there's all these other crazy people, like crazy bum, just like talking to himself. And then there's like a person who's like obsessive, compulsive, just doing the same thing over. And I just want to show all these different types of crazy. and kind of just like, I'm just kind of walking around being cool about it. So
yeah,
that's kind of the idea behind the music video. And so it's kind of going to be like a lighthearted, kind of silly kind of video. But I realized that I need to make a music video that's going to get people's attention. It can't be like just high quality, but no substance in the video.
Yeah.
The video is really important because you gotta do something to get people's attention. Like you watch a YouTube ad and you notice those first 5 seconds are extremely important. And I want those first 5 seconds to be something that catches people, that makes people keep watching, so that they'll keep watching, pretty much, And so if the song is selling, just like if you look at Childish Gambino and his music video, what is it? The music video he had, America, This Is America. His video was so like absurd and shocking that people like the song. I don't even know whether I like the song or not, but I know that the music video gets people into that the music video is why that video has like, I think literally like 1 billion views or something like that. Or so music video is extremely important in this day and age,
Yeah. And it's funny because before it used to be, music video and MTV, and then it really shifted to music videos and YouTube, and they are equally, or if not, like you said, more important. I was thinking perhaps in the near future, maybe we collaborate one day, but I envisioned already some kind of music video with you and your bees and your agriculture, something like that, and it could be a very interesting story of a guy like, and his farm animals, his bees, but then you're really good, this musician, this songwriter. It'd be different. I mean, especially if I don't know which song to do that for, but it could be like very contrasty.
Yeah, no, I could see that. No, I could definitely, I can see something cool like that happening. Yeah, man, if you want to do something, some kind of collaboration, man, I don't play around, so like if you want to, I'm down, man.
That's cool.
I'll fly out to LA or whatever, or have you fly out here.
Yeah, for sure.
Because this year I've always been serious, but this year I'm super serious. Like I really want to take this next level, and like so whatever I got to do, we drove 8 hours to go to Bristol, Virginia for like a TV interview that was on TV, and like for 5 minutes, like just I'm like, nope, I'm doing this. And so we did, like, I'm dead serious. So anything that we can make happen and collaborate, and that's what it's all about, like helping each other out, I will collaborate, and both of us will grow and get better because it's something that we can do together for sure. So just let me know, man. I'm down.
I'll send you my website just so you can check out. We have a reel right on there, and But yeah, that's great to hear. You have stuff already in the mix. Wow. Well,
and I also know other people that are doing similar stuff to what you're doing, and maybe linking you up with them could be a good thing too. And then you guys could do some collaboration together, and that's kind of just mixing all that together. And like I said, cool people just helping people out. Everybody working together to make something cool. I think it's just the best way to go.
I agree.
And, so,
very good.
Yeah.
Well, that was some really cool information. I recorded that.
Oh yeah.
Because I really love the whole. That's such a contrast. You into that permaculture and all that stuff. That's very cool.
Yeah, I know. I'm really I'm really random.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah. So music and farming. Yep. Yeah, music is definitely my first thing. This farming thing, this past 2 years, I've really been into it and really been passionate about that. And so, but I'm still into music, super heavy too. That's place music or whatever. Yeah, in some kind of weird way they are linked, and maybe that's why the video with the farming and the bees would be a cool thing too.
Interesting. Very alternate life. That's cool. Well, hey Jordan, thank you so much for your time. It's been great talking with you and learning about your journey.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me, and I appreciate it. And yeah, man, I wish you nothing but the best in everything you're trying to do, man.
All right. Well, everyone listening, thank you for listening. And a lot of what we talked about will be in the show notes with some links. And please check it out on unfakeittillyoumakeit.com. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Unfake It Till You Make It podcast. For detailed sources and show notes for this episode, visit www.unfakeittillyoumakeit.com. Until next time, get up, get going, and get creative.